Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast. We got Doug Lodmell here from currently out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Doug, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good to be here, Nate.
Absolutely. So I like to ask this question first to start us off. The name of the podcast is Championship Leadership. So when you hear that, what comes to mind for you? What does championship leadership mean to you?
Wow. Okay. That's a good one. I see why you didn't prep any of this. You just want really
that's
the first thing that's coming out. So to me, leadership is about lowering the fear so that those that are following can actually do it. So it's a definition that I picked up a long time ago. I didn't make it up, but I picked it up and I've used it ever since. So for me, championship leadership would just be, somebody who excels at reducing that fear for the people and creating that safe environment for everybody to absolutely do their best.
I love that. I've never heard that before, and makes total sense. Why don't you explain that a little bit? What, like, is that a thing? Do you see that a lot where there's maybe leadership led through fear and often, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we all kind of know the path of understanding how the human mind works, in that finally there's a lot of research, a lot of self-help books, a lot of, the last 20, 30, 40 years, certainly our lifetime that we've been adults and able to the access to understanding what makes a happy life and a successful person. I don't think it's a big mystery anymore. To me, it's not. So there's two big motivating energies out there and emotions, and one is fear and the other is pleasure. I mean, you're kind of seeking pleasure and avoiding fear. And what I think leaders do is that they don't avoid the things that make most people afraid. Not having a steady paycheck and taking the risk of signing a lease and hiring people and making commitments. They are stepping into that fear. And what they learn, what I certainly have learned, what I've seen my thousands of clients express to me over the last 25 years, is that when they do that, they inherently just get less afraid of the unknown. They get less afraid of what's coming next because they keep stepping into it. Being an entrepreneur by nature is stepping into the unknown. And so when they do that, their fear level goes down. And then those people that are around them that see them, I mean, it's just energetic, if nothing else. You just see a guy or a girl that's confident, that's not afraid. When stuff's happening, they're not flustered, they're not put out. And that makes people very, very comfortable. And as a leader, that's what you want. And I have seen people lead from fear. They get to a certain state and they all of a sudden start to pull back and they start to get afraid. And that's a great way to destroy an organization real quick.
Yeah, I was actually thinking even on the flip side of that, like inciting fear in their people to get them to stay in line, right?
Yeah, which is horrible. We all know that's horrible leadership. There's nothing positive about using fear. Now it's effective for a very short period of time. And, if you had to get something done right now, okay, maybe use a little fear to do it. Like, grab those life jackets now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Well, why don't you, I appreciate that. And I love that answer. Why don't we talk a little bit about you for the listeners that are not familiar, and maybe share a little bit of your story and the journey that's taking you to where you're at today and what it is that you're up to today. And also if you're listening and you're not watching this, which a lot of people are listening in, so you got some guitars on the wall and you got a speaker behind you. Maybe share us a little bit about what that's all about for you too.
Yeah. So I'm an attorney, and I started practicing with my father 25 years ago. And I grew up with, a father as an attorney, but he was really more of a business person, more of an entrepreneur, did real estate, did lots of stuff, not being an attorney. So when I joined him, and my brother as well joined us, and we really started going down this path, it was really an adventure in building a business. And so while I'm an attorney, my path has really been that of an entrepreneur, that of a leader. and a counselor. I get clients all the time saying, boy, counselor's the right word for you, because that's really what I find myself doing a lot. And it's a lot around this topic, right? Of kind of, fear and mindset and how you can help build the right mindset to be successful. So, that's been my path. I've done nothing but focus on one area of the law, which is asset protection, which ironically is all about reducing fear. It's the exact same thing.
Right.
So, I see in my clients, they come to me with a fair amount of fear about what they do and what the risks are, and by creating a structure that actually can take the safety net and put it around their assets and give them an understanding and an assurance that, hey, if the worst possible case happened, you're going to be all right. It changes the way they live their life and do their business. In my personal life, I'm a little bit of a musician. I like the guitars. I like the drums. I think when I was younger, if I could have gone that path, that might have been something I'd have been interested in. I find that the best professionals kind of have a creative side to them, because I think you have to be creative to really come up with the unique solutions that it takes to excel and not just be, a normal like everybody else and whatever it is. My biggest hobby is I'm a pilot. Okay. So, I fly as much as I can. I fly my family to, our home in Colorado, and thank God I have a family that loves to fly with me. So, and that's all about risk management, right?
Definitely.
You're taking a defined, clear, known risk and you're mitigating it. You're saying, okay, well, here's the things I can do. And again, understanding what those risks are and planning for them is so much more effective than avoiding the risks because of the fear. And so I don't know, I guess in my life, that's really the main theme, is just stepping into that and figuring out nothing's really as scary as you think it is.
Yeah, that's the truth. A lot of times, almost every time, the fear and the stories that we kind of create inside of our head are, very rarely do they seem to play out that way, right? But it limits a lot of us.
Oh, and I mean, sometimes in a massive, life altering way. You can't do something that you really want to do because you just can't get over the fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about who are some of the people, the leaders, the mentors, the coaches that you've had come across your life, impact you, and what is it like? What are some of the characteristics that really have stood out about those people and the way that they impacted you?
Yeah. Well, certainly I grew up with parents that were, I would say, avant-garde, in the sense that they were very, very open to knowledge and to learning. I think the difference between people that really end up moving in this life, moving from one place to another, really in a certainly in a personal growth way, is their willingness to quit believing what they think, to challenge the beliefs that they think that they have, and to understand that all those beliefs, every single one of them, is not true. They're just not true. And that you end up getting to live in the world that you create by the beliefs that you decide to hang on to. And the who has been most impactful in my life, my God, most of the people I would name are authors, are people that I've read. From philosopher Ken Wilber, who's just a fantastic thinker that has synthesized basically the history of the world's knowledge into a coherent philosophy that helps you understand how we're growing through these stages of development, to Byron Katie, who wrote Loving What Is, who's just an amazing simple technology that allows you to go, hey, is that true? Is that belief true? Identify what's causing the stress, identify the belief behind it, and then challenge that belief. And everybody in between. I mean, there's just tons, from coaches that I've had and personal growth, all of it.
I was waiting for Byron Katie to come up.
Really?
What you were saying just a few seconds ago, I was like, man, sounds an awful lot like somebody called Byron Katie, and which is crazy, because just yesterday, the guest I had, her name is Casa Grant, also talked about Byron Katie.
Really?
It's like the first time I think her name has came up, because
Wow.
I love Byron Katie as well. So I'm very
It's
familiar.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is. So that's cool. That's very interesting.
Well, if you're listening to this and it's come up twice, that should say something to you.
There's your sign, right? Yeah, definitely need to check into it. The work is powerful. Definitely helped change my life. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, check her out, Byron Katie. She still puts out a lot of value as well.
Yeah. And she's got a bunch of YouTube videos. You can watch her do the work. You can get a sense of it. And the book, of course, Loving What Is. You can listen to it, you can read it. And I mean, she's phenomenal. And then there's been some other teachers that I've had. There's a guy named Marshall Thurber, and he's a pretty amazing guy. And his mentors were Buckminster Fuller and Edward Deming. And Deming is the father of quality in this country. And his story is fascinating. If you don't know Deming's story, you should look it up. Yeah. I mean, he hit a 3-week seminar that he gave in Japan after World War II is the reason that today Japanese products are still better than American products. That 3-week seminar, just 3 weeks. And he explained, and they were listening because they were paying attention at that moment. Yeah. And we didn't listen. We thought we didn't need that information. So he went to whoever would listen to him, and they fixed it a long time ago. We're only figuring it out in the last 20 years. Yeah. And then Buckminster Fuller, if you don't know who he is, I mean, obviously he created the geodesic dome and forecast a molecule that would be discovered, which has since been discovered, and somebody won the Nobel Prize for it. An amazing thinker. He's the guy that kind of coined Spaceship Earth and saying, how insane is it for us to, it's like being on a cruise ship and cabin, 70 is fighting with cabin 27 and floor 40. I mean, it's insane. We're on one ship, right? Right. What are we doing? So, but Marshall Thurber was great because he synthesized a lot of that and brought a lot of really interesting people together in a seminar. And I mean, to this day, I still think about things I learned in that class all the time. That what's going on in front of you think is the point, and more often than not, what's happening 90 degrees parallel, just in that peripheral vision, is what's really important. And oftentimes you just turn, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's right there. But if we get locked into this, is kind of back to these strict beliefs, and it's got to be this way, and we've got to have these politicians in power, and we've got to have these policies, and man, that's a tough way to live. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. Be open to different possibilities. Absolutely. What's the vision that you have inside of your life, impact you're looking to make? I think a big part of championship leadership is having a great vision and courage to take action on that vision. Yeah. What is it for you? Maybe even shorter term, 5 years from now, what's kind of the impact you want to make? Well, I mean, I think that what we're talking about, you got to pick a focus, right? You got to pick an area. Anybody in marketing will tell you, okay, great. Who's your audience? And if you say everybody, that's impossible to market to. You can't market to everybody. If you say, 14-year-old girls in Southwestern New Jersey, well, okay, we can probably market to them. Right. We know we can count them, right? There's only so many of those people. So we can be really specific and focused. And what I've learned is that while anybody who's good at anything could have been good at anything else, you're not. Yeah, right. I could have been a great guitarist. I know I could have been. Yeah. I'm not because I didn't put in the hours it takes to be a great guitarist. So to say, I want to impact the world with my music, that's not realistic or possible, really. Yeah. To say, I want to impact the world with my understanding of law and how to lower that fear using the legal system, as well as integrating in the new technologies that are happening. So, what I would say is in the next 5 years, I'd like to integrate in the new technology, specifically the blockchain technology, into what I do in a way that is incredibly impactful to the entire legal community. And certainly to the people who need the service, need the support, need the product.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Blockchain is definitely on its way, right? And not going anywhere.
No, it's been said, and I personally believe it, with after the amount of information that I have access to, that it is much bigger than the internet. The internet was actually the prelude to blockchain technology. The internet was just a prerequisite. So the way the internet has impacted our lives, now just imagine that. Imagine not going back to no internet and what that we certainly wouldn't be on this call, right? We would we would not have met, because we probably wouldn't have been able to sit in a studio together, because I'm in Scottsdale and you're in Minnesota. But today we can't imagine it not being there. Blockchain is the same. It's and if you look at it from I mentioned Ken Wilber and his theory of integral theory, which means you really get to a point where you're integrating all these other stages of development. One of the hallmarks of that is transparency, and that is what blockchain actually provides, is transparency. So while a lot of people are terrified about transparency, it's actually where we're all headed. I had a call with a client today, and he's just terrified about the lack of transparency, the amount of information the government is seeking to have about all of us, and every transaction over $600 in your account they're going to track, and all this stuff. And my answer was, it's not going to be stopped. You can't do anything about it. And in fact, if you just turn around and say, well, what would happen if I embraced that level of transparency? What if I had just actually accepted it and said, how would I act? What it does is it brings up your own personal bottom of what a standard is that you're willing to accept, and everybody else is willing to accept.
Right.
And blockchain does that. And I'm not talking specifically about cryptocurrency. I'm talking about blockchain technology. Cryptocurrency, of course, is just a component of that. And it's like the oil inside of the blockchain engine. It helps things go. You can't make something work without fuel. Actually, it's more like the fuel, right? They even call it gas charges when we use the technology. Like, let's say you build something on the Ethereum platform, you get charged gas, which is so the cryptocurrency is the fuel, but the technology is the blockchain. That's what's so interesting.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears here just a little bit, and I like to ask this question. If you could think of a major turning point or a critical moment in your life, kind of that fork in the road. Obviously you made the decision that you did, which has you where you are today, but had you not, you could be in a very different place. I think, especially today, more than ever, there's a lot of people in those moments trying to decide what to do, which way to go. A lot of times they kind of feel which way they want to go, but they got other people or other things pulling them a different direction. And there's a lot of power to hear how others like yourself have responded or decided in those moments. So is there one that you could share with us today?
Yeah, I mean, I just realized my my microphone does that sound different to you?
No, it's about the same.
All right. I thought for this answer, I better have the right microphone on.
Yeah, right.
I think there's one impactful decision that you got to get right. I tell my kids this. I say, look, if you just get one thing right, just one thing, just this one thing, you're going to be okay. And that's who you decide to spend your life with, who you marry, who you are going to, because that person is your waking and sleeping world, for better or worse, right? Like whether you like them or not. And I have spent, tens of thousands of hours on the phone with clients. I have gotten deep into their financial lives and their personal lives so many times. Counselor really is the role I would call most accurate description of what I do. And I can tell you, the relationship people are in defines them, whether it's a good relationship or a bad relationship. In fact, it particularly defines them if it's a bad relationship. But if your spouse, your partner is not literally your number one fan, then you might want to consider finding someone who is. And if you're not theirs, then you're missing a massive component of what life is.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about how it's enabled me to take the risks I want to take, having a wife in my case that says, hey, I say to her, hey, I want to take this risk. I want to do this thing that could impact us financially. It could impact us, emotionally. There's lots of things it could do. And she says, I got your back. And look, if it doesn't work out and we're under the bridge, then the party will be under the bridge.
I love that.
And I can't even tell you how that makes me feel when I'm the one that really is kind of responsible to take that risk.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to ultimately come and say, am I willing to do that? And so, I don't know if that fits into your leadership conversation, but to me, that there's not a single more important thing that you can possibly decision you could possibly make than who you're going to spend most of your time with and look to for support.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to have kids, well, shit, you better get that one right.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's an incredible answer. And
hold on, sorry, I lost you. Okay,
can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Awesome. I said, I love that. I love it. That's beautiful. And first time we've had someone bring that up, and so true. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get that right. And so anyway, yeah.
Well, they're right because they don't have a model of what it looks like. They really don't. Most of us don't. We don't have a good model of what a healthy, super supportive relationship looks like.
Right.
We can only change that one at a time, right? We got to do it and show our kids. And I don't think my kids are gonna. The chance that they are not going to make that mistake is better than someone who's raised with a different model.
How many kids do you have? 3. How old are they?
21, 15, almost 16, and 13.
Yeah. So that is powerful advice, definitely. They ever ask you how do you know? How do you figure that out? How do you make sure?
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, obviously that's the tricky part. So my advice to my kids is, I know you don't know what having a massive injection of the most powerful drug in the world directly into your veins feels like, but when you first fall in love, you'll figure it out. Yeah. Just know that is not permanent. That you gotta survive that before you can make these decisions. And let me just tell you, if you can fall in love with anybody, I just believe, I know you can fall in love with anybody. Mm-hmm. So figure out who it is that you want to have as a partner and then fall in love with them. Yeah. Don't fall in love with the randomness and then say, oh, I'm going to make that person. And this is a mistake. I think women make this mistake more than men. They fall in love with a man that's not what they want, and then they try to change him, and then
they can fix him. They can change.
We can fix him, man. We're gonna fix this guy. He's so close. Yeah, well, he's maybe not even close at all, but I can see where he could be.
You're right.
He's not going to change, and if he does, he's going to show you that well before you get married. You're going to see that change, and you'll have seen the pattern in his life. So the answer is get through enough of your own growth so that you can look back and judge it, and then make sure that you choose a partner that you're seeing that they're also growing, that there's a path, that they're not just statically sitting there, waiting for the world to solve their problems or hit them or start living when this happens or when that happens.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's powerful. What's we start to wrap this up, like, I think you just gave us an incredible piece of advice, but if there are one or two things, kind of principles to live by, or sage advice and wisdom that if someone were to implement today, it would help move their life forward today, what would that be?
Well, it's pretty simple. I got it written on my kitchen wall for my kids, for myself, for my family. These are just beliefs, principles, tenets, whatever you want to call them. They're not true. They're just beliefs. So my definition of a belief is something you choose to believe, and whether you want to keep it or not is just a function of what is the result of that belief having in your life. In other words, is it functional or is it non-functional? So if I have a belief that the world's out to get me, then I'm going to live in a very scary world that's out to get me. And so is that the world I want to live in? No. So the belief that I choose to teach to my family and live by myself is that all things work to perfection. Just everything, whether it's a parking ticket or a car accident, or, you know, the biggest client you've ever gotten in your life dropping on your desk, you know, doesn't matter whether it's good or whether it's bad, it's all working to your perfection.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't really need that belief too much when things are good, but that belief comes in incredibly handy when things aren't going so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's rough, you know?
Yeah.
So all things work to perfection would be the single thing that I think has been most impactful to my life. And I feel in good company. You know, Einstein, who was a mystic and an incredibly evolved human in many ways, said there's really only one question that you have to ask yourself, and that's, do I live in a friendly universe? So to me, it's the same belief, right? Are things working for me? Am I living in a friendly universe, or do I live in an unfriendly universe? And I can talk to somebody for 2 minutes. I know what universe they live in.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I would say is, hey, if you're hanging around people living in an unfriendly universe, and that's no longer the universe you want to be living in, get away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Drop your friends, drop your partners, drop everybody, and find the people that have the belief that supports the direction you're going, because peer pressure matters. What you feed your mind matters. And if you don't surround yourself with those people, you can forget about it.
Yeah, like you say, if you're in that unfriendly universe, everything that you do and everything around you, you're going to find to line up with that, right? Because that's what's true for you. So you got to prove that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the amount of information that we take in, we only process a fraction of it. And this is actually from Marshall Thurber's conference. I mean, when I say a fraction, I mean, you know, a thousandth of a percent of the amount of information that we actually can perceive. We actually comes to our consciousness. So we just filter out what we don't want to hear. We don't even hear it. Right. We just don't hear it. You can't, you know, that you ever talk to somebody and you realize they're not hearing, there no way in hell they're ever going to hear your perspective. It's just not possible. So
that is amazing. Yeah. And it can be very frustrating sometimes too, especially if it's something that you really believe in and are passionate about. Right.
Well, yeah, well, that's the problem, right? Check your own passions, you know, why you're passionate about it. Yeah. Why does it really matter that much?
Yeah. It's it's an incredible conversation.
Yeah,
definitely. Which I think also, so go check out Byron Katie. I think that's a big piece to what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
What was the name of the individual from back in the end of World War II? You said that
Deming. Yeah. So there's a book called The Essential Deming. It's kind of a summary because somebody put it together. He's written a lot, but it's not a modern day like book that. But this is probably the best compilation of all of his work.
Deming.
Yeah, Deming. And you could, we can talk about that for another hour. I mean, there's so much stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, I know you don't have another hour, so I appreciate you being here. What are a few ways that the listeners can continue to maybe stay in touch with you, stay in contact with you, and what you're up to? Yeah.
So like I said, my impact in the world is really around personally protecting people with their assets. And so if you find yourself in a position where you are ever kind of wondering, hey, have I done what I need to do to make sure that I'm not risking everything that I've created? You know, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you have employees and you have risk, you have customers. I think there's a sense that a lot of people have that I'm taking a risk and I haven't really defined the risk, and I don't know if I've really taken steps to mitigate it. That's what I do. So anybody's welcome to call me. You can go to my website, which is just lodmell.com, my last name Lodmell, and or email me, doug@lodmell.com. And there's lots of information and videos on there, and so happy to talk to you.
Very good. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Doug. This is it's been a really fun conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah, I agree, Nate. Thanks.